I have the pleasure to be joined this week by the young freshman Congresswoman who has dominated the news cycle. Jasmine Crockett is a civil rights attorney and represents Texas in the House of Representatives. Thank you so much for being here today. You must be exhausted.
I am, and I probably look it, but it's all good.
No, you look fine. But you have been working. Listen, I have been following you for a while, and I've been seeing you really let folks have it on the House floor. And I'm sure when we don't see you as well. But recently you got involved with the scuffle with Georgia Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Green. I just want to play what happened, just a little bit of what happened when she, for some reason, talked about your eyelashes. It was really out of pocket, but let's watch and then we'll talk.
Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your feelings hurt?
Her words down. Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play.
Baby girl? I don't think
we are going to move and we're going to take your words down.
I second that motion.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
I'm trying to find clarification on what quality.
Chairman, motion to strike those words.
I had no idea what you just said.
Okay. I thought what you said was funny, but I think people admit the best part of it was a what now?
Yeah, it was. It caught us off guard.
Listen, I know people are laughing at it. Do you have any regrets about it? What do you think about it watching it?
No, I actually don't. What people don't understand is that Marjorie had multiple opportunities to not end up in this situation. Number one, she could have just not done it because it wasn't warranted and it's against the rules. The second opportunity that she had was to apologize. So it was basically supposed to be apologize or be kicked out of the committee. And once the chairman decided, never mind, I don't want to kick her out, then it was more so clarification. And I never said a word to her. I never directed my words to her. I used parliamentary procedure to inquire because I wanted the chairman to think about how far this could go if he decided that he wanted to rule in this way. And so I don't expect her to ever change her poor behavior, but I don't know that the chairman wants to be included in all the trap songs, country songs, gospel songs, or anything like that. And hopefully he can get control over the committee. I just think that people are used to Democrats just sitting there and taking whatever insults are lodged at them and saying, well, never mind, I'm just going to be quiet. And this was the first time that I was illustrating for the chairman, this could go a lot of ways if you decide that you want to play this game.
And have you heard, what did the chairman say anything to you? You weren't disciplined in any way, were you?
He has not said anything to me. We had committee for the first time yesterday, and Marjorie did not show up. So she didn't come to committee oversight, and then it's my understanding that she didn't show up for Homeland either, one of her other committees. So everything went a lot smoother. I mean, oversight is a clashing committee no matter what. For sure, we had a member that wanted to talk about diversity and DEI and wanted to basically say if you're diverse, then you can't be qualified, which hit a special way, right? So I had to deal with that. But those are the things that we engage in, right? But this is just different, kind of directly saying something to someone.
Well, I feel like we've gone back in time. I mean, there's so many things I want to ask you about. Let me get this over and then we'll talk about the DEI of it. Were you surprised that it went viral the way it did?
I absolutely was.
Because people have written songs about it. It's all over the internet. It's trending still. There's merch. I mean, I hope you're using it to your advantage to do some good.
We are. We made sure that the campaign moved to trademark the phrase so that we could hopefully control a good portion of the merch and at least make people think twice about, producing merch, because none of this money is going to go into my pockets whatsoever. I'm going to stay a public servant who's not getting paid, but what has been dictated by law. But
what are you going to do with it?
Absolutely raising money. So we're raising money through the campaign. And because I am a member of leadership, I am responsible for giving money to other candidates. And I do it really because I want to do it. So I help usually candidates on every single level of government. We just got done with city elections. I help some city candidates. I'm helping a state representative, but I also make sure that I send money to the federal candidates that are running. So this is really going to help democracy on the back of Marjorie. I don't think that there's anything else that could be more poetic, not even my words, than being able to take this as an opportunity, take these lemons and actually turn them into lemonade.
Do you know how much you've raised?
I have a guess.
You have a guess?
I have a guess.
Can you tell us?
I don't want to because we need to raise more. People don't understand how much these daggone campaigns cost.
All right. It's expensive, but it's a good amount, right?
It's a decent amount, yeah.
It's a decent amount of money. Okay,
it's
good.
More money than I've ever raised in a week. That is.
How did you come up with that saying? Is this just off the top of your head? Because, I mean, there's alliteration and everything. I mean, it was just, wow.
No, so I actually was so frustrated when he was making his ruling and he was trying to give her time back to speak. And so that's when I was like trying to interrupt him. And so I was looking over at her. And so I jotted down, I was like, you bleach blonde. And then I thought of my granny. My granny used to call people bad built all the time.
Built. My grandmother would call people portly built or, it
was a granny phrase.
Yeah.
And so I was like, bad built. And then I actually toyed around with the last part of it for a second. So that was the part that took me a little bit longer to get the last two B's. When I say took me a little longer, like took me 5 seconds longer. And so I was like, butch body. And so it was literally just to make sure that he understood how bad it could be. But again, a hit dog hollered because she almost immediate was like, you know what? I think my body looks great. I'm almost 50.
Yeah.
Okay.
She responded to it. I mean, do you think it was, she felt a certain kind of way about it?
Yeah, she did.
You think she's embarrassed by the blowback? Because what she did was really out of pocket, as I said at the top of the show. I mean, there was no need for her to say that.
Yeah, I think that she is shocked that the internet has gone so far at dragging her. What most people don't realize is that Marjorie is the 5th best fundraiser that they have on the Republican side. She falls below leadership. So the only people that are beating her out in fundraising are all people that are in leadership. And so some would think, man, she's really popular. Polling shows that she's the most despised person that's a member of the Republican caucus. But those people that love her, they send their $2 and $3 and $4 every month. And so she's able to still kind of get these very small grassroots dollars into the door. But I think the backlash that you see on social media, and it's across all racial spectrums, all generations, I think that it's clear that like Americans have an issue with how she handles herself in Congress. And I don't think that she was expecting that. I think that she felt like she could probably ignore, say, Black Twitter, and she would just make it a Black thing. But considering the fact that it's like all ages, all races, and they will not stop dragging her, like every day there's something new, I think it has gotten to her. But I think that people have been tired of her bullying, and no one took the time to try to knock her back.
Does she, you said the attack was racist, right? Did you think her attack was racist?
Yeah.
Why?
Because if you've ever followed anything that I've done on social media, every time MAGA gets mad, it's this, oh, look at her nails. Oh, look at her hair. Oh, look at her lashes. And to be clear, a bunch of the people that they love the most wear lashes, wear extensions, wear nails. And it's only...
People don't know. They think it's like a Black woman thing. White ladies wear extensions and clip-ins and
They do.
you know what I'm saying? And
They do.
lashes. It's not just for Black women.
It's not just for Black women. But what she was doing was she would never say it about one of her white counterparts.
Right.
It was to be in this trope of, oh, that's ghetto to have lashes or to have, you know, your nails and that kind of stuff.
You think she's jealous?
And so that's all she was trying to do.
You think she's jealous?
I would be if I was her, but you know, but I can't get into that wild head of hers.
You said her bullying and etc. Do you worry about her? I mean, do you think she would never do anything physical, or maybe her supporters? I don't know.
I don't worry about her doing anything physical. I mean, you know, people forget that I was a criminal defense attorney. So, you know, there are those that are like, oh, look at her and that hood is coming at her. I'm like, I dealt with murderers. Like, I need y'all to understand like where this comes from. Like, I've always had to have a very strong sense of self because of the types of people that I would have to deal with as a criminal defense attorney. So, you know, I think that I have a better gauge on who's a threat and who just talks. Marjorie likes to talk a lot. I don't see her ever being physical at all. Plus, I think that she may be concerned about what I could do physically. And when it comes down to her supporters, I never put anything past MAGA. But the reality is that the same people that have hated me since day one are continuing to hate me. And so we do get death threats, which is just a sad part of the reality of what MAGA has induced into politics. And I know there are some that will argue, well, we've had assassinations, JFK, things like that. But I think that it's different because, number one, we have seen such a spike in the threats that are coming in against members, and it is initiated by MAGA. When we were talking about the speaker vote and whether or not Jim Jordan would become the speaker, you know, MAGA was going out and threatening other Republicans and their spouses, as well as we know that we've seen it on our side where they've tried to go after people. Obviously, they went after Nancy Pelosi and ultimately harmed her husband. So, you know, MAGA is not a political party as far as I'm concerned. They have co-opted the Republican Party, and they are more so violent, like out of control, you know, neo-Nazi types. I mean, we know that when we look at January 6th, there were a number of them that actually were neo-Nazis. They are violent, and they honestly have no place in America. But I don't know when we will actually make a break with MAGA.
Wow. Really? How did we get to, well, I think MAGA, I feel like the Republican Party now is MAGA. It's been taken over by MAGA. So yes. I feel like they're one and the same, Congresswoman, because the people in the party who say that they're not MAGA and they're traditional Republicans, they're not standing up to the MAGA crowd.
Oh, that's absolutely true. And, you know, and I think that that's going to be one of those things that we have to make clear in the upcoming elections as we attempt to take the House back. You know, you've got the likes of like Mike Lawler in New York who will go on all of the TV stations, right? And his rhetoric will change based on which TV station he's on.
Don't I know it?
His voting record is clear. Yeah. His voting record is clear, and it aligns with the rest of them. You know, if you are concerned about a national abortion ban, you should be concerned. I've got this markup on the farm bill where they are attempting to cut $30 billion from SNAP benefits. So for everyone that thinks that they'll have more money in their pockets, you're wrong. The Republicans want to take food out of your literal mouths. And we know that people that are on SNAP are only getting $6 a day. That is absolutely ridiculous as people are complaining about the cost of food.
So Mike Lawler is one of a number, but he said his rhetoric changes depending on which news network he's on. So you think he says things, if he goes on something that's considered liberal, he'll say something that's more liberal, or if he's on a conservative network, he'll say something more conservative. But don't listen to the words that come out of his mouth. Listen to what he does, and that's in his voting record.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that it really comports with what you're saying, is that the party has been co-opted by MAGA, because as it relates to the policies or whatever, because I don't really feel like they have policies, they end up kind of hamstrung by MAGA, and they usually fall in. every once in a while, when it's something that's so important, that's when the speaker, no matter if it's McCarthy or if it's Mike Johnson, decides, I've got to ditch these guys because we've got actual work to do. That's when we end up doing things like making sure we can keep the government open. That's when we end up making sure that the debt ceiling is taken care of. That's when we end up doing things like making sure that we can pass foreign aid packages for our allies and friends that are struggling overseas. Other than that, though, it's the crazy people just running the inside.
Well, that's what I want to ask. Right, it's the inmates running the asylum. What do you think it says about the state of politics that something like that could happen on the House floor? That and the type of behavior that's happening from these folks. What is going? Is that because of the MAGA wing of the party? I don't get it.
I think it's just them. I mean, I would guess that it's because of MAGA. But people are definitely remembering this for a lot of different reasons. But if we think back to just my first term here in Congress, we know that the speaker got into a physical altercation with another one of his members. We know that there was almost the fight on the Senate side that Bernie Sanders had to shut down. And there was at least one more incident in that same week with the Republicans. We also know that Marjorie has heckled the president for the last two State of the Unions. This last one, she put on a MAGA hat. We're not allowed to wear any hats, let alone one that has a slogan on the House floor. She did not care. She, again, ignored the rules of decorum, and she was yelling at the president as he was speaking. There was that moment where they had an exchange back and forth. She was yelling at him last year. And then she also was on the House floor and called her other MAGA darling the B word. That happened. And I forgot, when we were going through the speaker fights, there was like a physical altercation where one of the older Republican men grabbed another Republican man like by the throat. So like they have been physical all year long for sure, and or have exchanged really biting words to one another. This was the first time that someone decided to cross the aisle in a committee or otherwise to say something hateful directly to a member. And so I think that that's why it is more memorable, because it's like, oh, that's just what they do on the Republican side.
Well, it's interesting because, if you look at social media, MAGA, you talk about how, what they say to you, the responses that they say to you online. And they're always talking about, Black people and Black people's behavior. I mean, look at them. I mean, that's some ghetto stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
saying?
saying?
They've got blinders though. I mean, it's like, they can do whatever they want to, and that's perfectly fine. And for you to have a larger reaction to what I did than to have any reaction whatsoever to what she did, it just kind of tells you where they are. And I just ignore them. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my mom would say, use your words. You used your words, and look what happened.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you though, because as a Black politician in Texas, I'm sure you've seen that Trump has made some massive gains. At least that's what the polls show. The polls show that, more Black people are liking him. I don't know if that translates into votes. I don't know if you believe the polling, but apparently he's making some gains with Black Americans in this election cycle. According to a recent New York Times poll, as many as 20% of Black voters are teetering in his direction. What do you think? Why do you think we've seen this alleged growth among Black voters, and do you believe it?
I think that we have to be very serious about the misinformation and disinformation that is put out there, especially into the spaces in which we receive our information. It's just like this mistaken belief that, number one, Trump sent out stimulus checks, right? Like it's this idea that, oh yeah, he put money into my pockets, without fully understanding the story and recognizing that actually he slowed that money down because he wanted to put his name on the check, right?
Yeah.
And so or the fact that the Biden-Harris administration gave you even more money, or the fact that the child tax credit was something that was born, again, of House Democrats' work. And working.
Congresswoman, y'all need to get that out there. How come you can't get that out there? What's up with that?
I think that is very difficult. I think what was demonstrated with what happened last week is that the way that people take in information, it's very difficult to break through. I never thought that that would be the thing that would go viral and cause songs and things like that. But if I sit here and talk about the fact that the president wants to give $400 a month to people so that they can move into houses because he understands that the interest rates are high, that's not going viral. Or if I talk about the fact that the president has done $7 billion for HBCUs versus the $253 million that Trump did not want to reauthorize, not initiate, but reauthorize. He didn't want to do it until somebody said, well, President, we can invite all of the HBCU presidents and we can take a photo. So he's like, okay, great, I'll sign it then, right? Like, the fact is, he has a record that has been harmful towards Black people, and anything that has been done that he has been credited with, it wasn't initiated by him. It wasn't a policy that he actually wanted to do. This was something that was done by House Democrats or Senate Democrats. And he just decided to sign into law because he saw an opportunity to be able to market on it. And I don't know how people forget that we ended up with the pandemic. It's so astounding to me that no one really remembers that when we had President Barack Obama, we had an Ebola breakout. And I remember it because it was down in Texas. But you know what? That administration was able to contain and make sure that this did not become an international incident. He failed. He threw out Obama's book. He decided that, oh, this is nothing. It will never make it here. And the entire world relies on America to be the grown-ups for the entire world. And we didn't have one. We could have saved some of your cousins, brothers, sisters, mothers, if we did not have Donald Trump. And the final thing that I'll say on this is that there are a lot of people that are really upset about the war and about the president's handling of the war as it relates to Israel and Gaza. And the reality is that there's only one president that ever tried to institute a Muslim ban, and he was stopped by the courts. But now he has the court that he wants. So for everybody that believes that Donald Trump will be better when he is out here sputtering and saying, I am going to institute a Muslim ban, you're wrong. I get that you may not like either position. You shouldn't like Donald Trump's position for sure. But that's not, you're not hurting Joe Biden by not reelecting him. Joe Biden is in his 80s and has his bag.
Okay.
You're not hurting him. You're hurting yourself.
Let me read this. And this is from a prominent African-American, and I'm not going to tell you the name, but I'm going to read this was sent to me. Jasmine Crockett must go out as a Biden surrogate ASAP. Black folks heart and relate to her. She is young, gifted, I think, Don. She is no shrinking violet, an attorney and solid. We need her now. 4 exclamation points. He mentions another politician, I'm not going to say. That politician, he believes, has lost their bite being too safe. Diplomatic, someone who's above you. Diplomatic and strategic because of the position that politician is in. And I'm paraphrasing there. I understand. But Crockett out there has the bite we need. You know, I love Michelle Obama for her when they go low, we go high. Well, F that. And MAGA have taken this country to a new low, and we must, he's a Democrat, I'm not, I'm an independent, just so you know. As Democrats, get a backbone, sharpen our tongues, start standing up for ourselves, the party and the country. So when they go low, fake lashes, we dig a hole for those MFers, bleach blonde, bad built butch body, and keep it moving until we can vote and get rid of this bunch of misfits running this country. And yes, it begins with defeating the orange, whatever, and MAGA. Then we can attempt to return to some form of normalcy to government. And then that person said, thoughts. And I just responded with a 100% emoji. So what I'm saying is, you're saying that you're having problems, Democrats, the president, the Biden-Harris administration, you're having problems punching through. Now, as I said, I'm an independent. I'm not in any political party, but I believe that the Democrats are the only party now that is trying to save democracy, is on the side of democracy. You have this moment now, Congresswoman, where you can break through, where you can talk to the people who believe that Trump gave them some money just because his name is on the check. You can talk to the folks in the barbershop and the beauty parlors and the church. So then what do you do with this moment?
Yeah, so I am absolutely all in as a surrogate. My schedule is really bad. But the Biden
Have they
Harris.
asked you?
Oh yeah, they
Okay.
absolutely have asked me, and that was before this moment. They obviously have watched me closely on oversight because that was where all of the impeachment drama was taking place. And so one of the places that is going to be a third home for me is going to be Detroit. So I'll be in Detroit here really soon. They've tried to get me to Nevada a number of times, but the schedule hasn't quite worked out. I was in Philly just this past weekend, and Philly is like, we need you here.
Okay, I get you. You're going around. I get you. But do you understand you cannot be safe in this moment? Can you get Democrats to understand, your colleagues? You cannot be safe in this moment. You must fight for democracy, and you cannot go high when they go low. I'm sorry.
I don't know that I can get all the Democrats to understand that. I think that the younger generation of Democrats, those that came in my class, which it's a very, very qualified class. So many of us came in with experience either on the state level or city government in some way. Even though we, on average, we are a younger class, we're quite experienced. And my class is like fighting, right? Jared Moskowitz is always brought up because Jared Moskowitz always fights back in a very witty way, but he's also an attorney. We know that Dan Goldman, when he fights back as a former federal prosecutor, but he's also in my class. We know that Maxwell Frost, our only Gen Zer, we know that he consistently fights back. And so I think that from my class, it's very easy to get them to do it. I can't really say so for some of the other ones. I will tell you that Nancy is ready to fight any day. But, you know, Maxine and Nancy both came up to me. Nancy came up to me the very next day and was like, you go, girl. She was like, that's exactly what she needed, right? And then Maxine came up to me yesterday and she was like, you keep it up. She was like, don't you let up, right? So it's weird because you have these giants that both of them are in their 80s, and they are absolutely high-fiving. In the middle, there's some people that are like, you did what you had to do, but now we need to figure this out, you know, that kind of
Let's
conversation.
move on and see what's next. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
But all right. But listen, I agree with you. Keep it up, right? Just keep fighting for fighting for what's right and fighting to keep our democracy. I have asked you a few things before we run out of time. Are you paying attention to what's happening in the Manhattan courtroom?
Oh, absolutely. I had a chance to actually go visit. So yeah.
You did. And do you think it'll make a difference? Because in the beginning, Americans weren't paying attention. And, you know, his supporters are saying, obviously, it's a witch hunt. You know, they're out to get him. It shouldn't be in court. They're going to vote for him anyways, even if he's guilty and even if he goes to jail.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are those people that will vote for Biden no matter what. There are those people that are going to vote for Trump no matter what. But this race will be decided on the opinions of independents, honestly. And so I think that some of those independents definitely may be swayed if he's found guilty.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Israel and Gaza. You have voted for 2 bills supporting Israel's ongoing conflict in the Gaza Strip. Considering how things have evolved, Congresswoman, over the last 7 months or so, it's almost 8 months. Do you still believe that the Biden administration should be supporting Israel militarily?
So, you know, I sent off a letter right after we did our vote for support, which meant that we could actually have support for Gaza, Haiti, Sudan, Congo. That was all included in that vote, which mattered to me because there are some huge conflicts that are taking place and there are some people that really need our help. But Israel is an ally. And I believe in making sure that we are very smart about foreign affairs because our enemies are watching as well as our friends. And to make sure that we can stay safe in this country, we have to make sure that we are truly honoring what it means to be an ally. Now, does that mean that I agree with Netanyahu? Absolutely not. It doesn't mean that I agree with Netanyahu. But I need to remind people, and I've had these conversations with heads of states of various friends and ally nations that are very concerned about if Trump comes back. Trump is wild. Trump and his friends have said nuke Gaza. That is what they have actually said. And so, you know, here's the deal. We end up in a very vulnerable situation if Trump ends up coming back into office And we basically give permission to our allies and friends to leave us because we did it. So do I agree with the fact that all of these Gazans have died? Absolutely not. Do I think that he has used a butcher knife when you needed a scalpel? Absolutely. At the same time, it is a difficult balancing act that I am walking, trying to make sure that we are safe as I look towards the possibilities in the future, but also trying to make sure that those that really need some sort of support, not just in Gaza, but in these other countries, that money is there.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I don't think people really understand the nuances of all of this. And I have said you can be concerned and care about Palestinians and about the folks in Gaza, and also understand that Israel has a right to defend itself, and Israel is an ally. I mean, just last night I went to, there's an exhibit, a Nova exhibit here in New York City, which depicts what happened at the Nova Festival on October 7th, and it's going to travel around the country. And if you see that, I think everyone should see it.
It was recommended to me when I was just in New York, and I'll be back in New York. But
it's over on the 25th, but I think it's coming to DC. But it's going to travel around the country. But you need to see it. It depicts what happened, I think, better than any news report or footage that I've seen, and you can't help but be moved by it. I want to move on just in the short time that we have, and I want to talk about, I know this sounds unorthodox, but go with me on this. I want to talk about Diddy because of the domestic violence part of it. And I'm wondering if there is an opportunity to help in this situation with the administration talking about domestic violence. What do you think of that? Do you think the administration should be talking about it, especially out on the campaign trail? Because this is a story that really hit all different demographics. It is in the zeitgeist, and everybody, it's crossed over into everything: politics, entertainment, law, and so forth. Should the administration be talking about this?
I think it's something that you may hear the vice president bring up for sure, specifically because she was a prosecutor, right? Mm-hmm. And some of the bills that we have tried to pass have to do with gun legislation and domestic abusers and things like that. I think it's a good opportunity to show the difference between the two parties about, like, is this somebody that you want to lawfully carry a firearm or not, considering how far they would go without a gun. It could really end up a lot worse. So I think it's an opportunity to really tout some of the legislation that this administration and the Democrats have been pushing on, as well as for the vice president who has prosecuted these types of cases to really say that, like, this is why she prosecuted,
And she's a woman. She's
right,
perfect.
and she's a woman.
And she's a woman. What did you think when you saw the video, Representative?
I've done defense work, so I've seen lots of videos of domestic violence myself.
Worse than this?
And I don't know if it was worse than this, but I've seen some pretty bad videos. Definitely the damage that was done to some women. I've seen worse damage done to some women. Maybe I didn't see the actual incident on video. I will say that it was beyond disturbing, and I feel as if there's a trend that we see taking place with the exposure of powerful, wealthy people that, for whatever reason, are taking that power and they are misusing it specifically upon women. We saw it with the Me Too movement. And, I don't think that anyone ever thought that Me Too would become what it was. And now we're consistently seeing and hearing about some of the people that, I grew up on Diddy, grew up on Mace, all of them, right? Like, so it's like, oh my gosh, what is happening with some of the people? Obviously, I grew up on R. Kelly, right? And just to be clear, Mace has not been accused of anything. I was just naming people.
Yeah, I get it, right.
That I grew up on. And so it's very disappointing to know that these are people that you potentially allowed to be so powerful because you gave them your money, you supported them, and this is what they did in turn.
Yeah. Congresswoman, last question, because I know you have to go. So what do you say to the women out there? I know that men are domestically abused as well, but by and large, by far, it's women who end up being the victims of domestic abuse. So what do you say to them as we leave?
What I say to them is that it's never your fault. It is never your fault. And I also want women to know that your class and your race have nothing to do with it. There are women that have been lawyers and doctors, that have been abused, as well as those that were relying on their abuser to take care of them. But you are worth more. And there are so many people that are out there that are willing to support you. There is a way out. Don't believe the hype. Don't buy into this idea of, I did something and so I deserve this, because no human being deserves to be treated this way.
It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I hope you come back. And I want to meet you in person. I've never met you in person. I don't think we've met. Who knows?
A long time ago. I was just about to say, maybe we didn't do it in person. A long time ago, you, myself, and Lee Merritt. I've got the pictures from a long time ago. We did something at a CNN something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was kind of like a town hall setup or something. But yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. Look, I've seen your moments. Well, anyways, Congresswoman, thank you. And Marjorie Taylor Green, I know you're not scared of her. You have any words for her? No?
Do better. Do better.
Do better. Thank you, Congresswoman. It's been a pleasure. You be safe, and we really appreciate it. Keep fighting.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks for watching The Don Lemon Show. Make sure you click on the image in the top right to subscribe to my channel and the thumbnail in the bottom right to watch more content from my show. And I'll see you next time.